Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader transforming Burkina Faso and shaking the very foundations of global power. What happens when the voice of faith meets the roar of revolution? Today we unpack the historic moment when Pope Leo XIV responded directly to Traoré's bold challenge, a conversation that transcends politics and religion to ignite a global call for justice, courage, and transformation. Stay with us as we explore the context, the messages, and the profound impact of this dialogue that is rewriting the story of leadership, faith, and freedom in the 21st century. To truly understand the power behind the dialogue between Pope Leo XIV and Captain Ibrahim Traoré, we must first step back and meet the giants whose names now echo across headlines and history. These two men come from vastly different worlds, yet their paths have converged at a moment when the world desperately needs leaders who embody courage, vision, and unwavering commitment to justice. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a young man born in 1988, rose from the dusty streets of Burkina Faso to become a symbol of hope for an entire continent. His journey is not that of a typical politician. It is the story of a soldier who took on the mantle of leadership at a time when his country was drowning in corruption, violence, and foreign exploitation. Traoré is not just a military officer. He is the voice of a new generation that refuses to accept the status quo, a generation that demands dignity and self-determination. His ascent to power through a military coup in 2022 shocked the world, but what followed was even more surprising. He did not seek power for personal gain, but to fight for his people's liberation. His speeches, filled with passion and defiance, challenged decades of injustice and neo-colonial control, inspiring millions to believe that a better future is possible. On the other side stands Pope Leo XIV, the spiritual beacon to more than 1 billion Catholics worldwide. Elected in early 2025, Leo XIV represents a new era of papal leadership, one that does not shy away from confronting the harsh realities of our world. Unlike many of his predecessors, this pope has been unafraid to speak boldly about issues of social justice, environmental crisis, and global inequality. He carries forward the legacy of Pope Francis, but amplifies it with a renewed urgency that demands both faith and action. His rise to the papacy came at a time when the world was grappling with division and despair, and his message is one of hope, solidarity, and profound responsibility. What makes Leo XIV exceptional is his willingness to break from tradition when necessary, to listen deeply to the cries of the oppressed, and to use the immense moral authority of the Church to advocate for transformative change. When these two giants, Traoré, the warrior for justice, and Leo XIV, the servant of faith, step into the light together, they represent a rare and powerful alliance. It is a union of strength and spirit, rebellion and redemption, that challenges us all to rethink what leadership truly means in our turbulent world. This backstory is not just about who they are, but about the unstoppable force they represent, a force that can reshape history and inspire generations to come. In the midst of global uncertainty and mounting tensions, a single act of courage can ripple across continents and ignite the flames of transformation. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's open letter to Pope Leo XIV was exactly that kind of moment, bold, unyielding, and drenched in the raw urgency of a people desperate for justice. This letter was not written in whispers or diplomatic euphemisms. It was a thunderous call, a powerful challenge that shattered the silence that often surrounds the struggles of African nations. In addressing the Pope directly, Traoré reached beyond the borders of Burkina Faso to speak to the heart of global conscience, demanding that the Church, an institution historically associated with spiritual guidance, take a stand in the political and social battles shaping the continent's future. Traoré's words were charged with emotion and purpose. He did not ask for pity or charity. Instead, he demanded partnership, a true alliance rooted in respect, equality, and shared commitment to dismantling systems of exploitation. Holy Father, he wrote, your voice carries the weight of millions of faithful, but today I ask, will you stand with the oppressed or remain silent while our lands are plundered? These words echo far beyond the walls of the Vatican, reverberating in the hearts of every individual who has felt the sting of injustice or the burden of being unheard. The letter lays bare a fundamental truth. Prayers alone cannot liberate a nation. Action must follow belief. Traoré's message also carried a profound warning to the world's powerful. It was a reminder that the era of colonial dominance and foreign interference in Africa is over. No longer will the continent be a pawn in global power games. His call was for dignity, sovereignty, and self-determination. By addressing Pope Leo XIV, he was also recognizing the Church's immense influence and moral authority, appealing to the Pope to be a force for true change, not a bystander to the suffering of millions. This letter marked a historic shift, a revolutionary leader reaching out to the spiritual leader of millions, demanding that faith meet the harsh realities of political struggle. It was a moment that captured the imagination of the world and forced a global audience to ask, what does it mean to be a true leader in times of crisis? Captain Traoré's open letter was a beacon, a declaration that the time for empty prayers and silent complicity is over. It called on Pope Leo XIV, and through him the entire world, to rise, respond, and walk the path of justice alongside those who dare to fight for their freedom. When Pope Leo XIV stepped forward to respond to Captain Ibrahim Traoré's stirring letter, the world felt the weight of a moment that transcended politics, religion, and geography. This was not a routine papal statement, nor a generic call for peace. It was a declaration that shook centuries-old walls of tradition and expectation. The Pope's response was powerful, empathetic, and unmistakably clear. The Church hears the cries of those who suffer and stands with those who fight for justice. Pope Leo XIV understood that his role was not only to offer spiritual solace, but to wield the immense influence of the Vatican as a catalyst for real, tangible change. In a world rife with inequality and violence, silence is complicity, and the Pope's words made that abundantly clear. Addressing Captain Traoré directly, Leo XIV called him a voice of courage and conviction, an acknowledgement that gave profound legitimacy to a leader who challenges not only local corruption, but global structures of power. The Pope's message was a call to unity, reminding us that faith without action is hollow. He spoke of dismantling structures that feed inequality and violence, urging collaboration between the Church and revolutionary movements striving for justice. This was a radical repositioning of the Church's role, from distant observer to active participant in the fight for human dignity. His words were not just for Traoré or Burkina Faso, but for the entire world. They echoed an urgent invitation to join forces in the pursuit of peace, grounded in fairness and equity. What makes Pope Leo XIV's response truly historic is its tone of partnership rather than patronage. For centuries, the Church's relationship with African nations has often been complicated by legacies of colonialism and paternalism. But here the Pope extended a hand of genuine solidarity, recognizing Traoré not as a rebellious outlier, but as a leader with a vision worthy of the Church's support. His message was infused with hope and strength, a spiritual rallying cry that encouraged not only prayer, but bold, fearless action. This was a moment where faith became a rallying point for change, a beacon that could illuminate the darkest corners of injustice. Pope Leo XIV's response reminds us all that leadership, true leadership, is about listening, standing with the marginalized, and daring to challenge the status quo for the sake of a better tomorrow. This unprecedented exchange between Pope Leo XIV and Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not merely a symbolic gesture. It is a seismic shift in the way leadership, faith, and power intertwine in our modern world. To fully grasp its profound significance, we must look beyond the words to the deeper currents of change it represents. For centuries, the Catholic Church has been a monumental institution, one that has often been cautious in its political engagements, wary of stepping into the volatile arena of global politics. Yet here we witness a pope who boldly chooses to stand alongside a revolutionary leader who dares to challenge entrenched powers, corruption, and injustice. This moment is a powerful testament to a new era where faith is not confined to rituals or sermons, but becomes a living force that demands action and accountability. It tells us that spirituality and political courage are not enemies, but partners in the quest for true freedom. For Burkina Faso and the wider African continent, this dialogue signals hope that has long been denied. Captain Traoré's fight is not just against a corrupt regime, It is against a system of global inequalities that have exploited Africa's resources and people for generations. The Pope's response brings global moral authority to Traoré's cause, elevating his struggle from a national crisis to a matter of international conscience. This support from one of the world's most influential spiritual leaders can help shift narratives that have long painted African leaders with broad brushes of suspicion and instability. It's a call to recognize the legitimacy of the continent's fight for self-determination, dignity, and respect on the world stage. On a broader scale, this moment challenges the global community, governments, organizations, and individuals alike, to rethink their roles in supporting justice and equity. The Pope's appeal for dismantling structures of inequality is a direct indictment of systems that have perpetuated poverty, violence, and exploitation. It calls on us all to reflect. Are we complicit through silence? Are we willing to stand with those who put their lives on the line for a better world? This exchange compels us to move from passive observers to active participants in the global struggle for justice. The alliance between a revolutionary soldier and a spiritual leader is a reminder that true power lies in unity, courage, and the relentless pursuit of what is right. It is an invitation to everyone watching to rise up, speak out, and act boldly. Because history does not wait for the timid. Change belongs to the brave. The powerful dialogue between Pope Leo XIV and Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not an isolated incident, but a reflection of a sweeping tide rising across Africa. A continent awakening with a new voice, a renewed spirit, and an unshakable determination to reclaim its destiny. For too long, Africa's narrative has been shaped by outsiders, its vast potential overlooked or exploited by global powers driven by greed and self-interest. But today, leaders like Traoré represent a seismic shift, a generation refusing to be defined by their past or constrained by the chains of neocolonialism. This rising voice is loud, clear, and impossible to ignore. It calls for dignity, justice, and sovereignty. It demands that Africa be seen not as a continent in need of charity, but as a powerhouse of resilience, wisdom, and leadership. The Pope's recognition of Traoré amplifies this movement, lending it a moral and spiritual legitimacy that resonates far beyond political rhetoric. Africa's story is one of survival and rebirth. From the Saharan deserts to the lush rainforests, its people have endured wars, exploitation, and economic hardships. Yet they have never lost their spirit. The current wave of leaders embodies this indomitable will. Leaders who understand that true power comes from within, from unity, and from a shared vision for a prosperous future. Traoré's fight against corruption, terrorism, and foreign interference is emblematic of a continent refusing to be held hostage by its problems. Instead, it is forging solutions rooted in its unique cultures, values, and aspirations. The Pope's message of solidarity with this vision is a beacon of hope, signaling that the world's most influential institutions are ready to listen, support, and collaborate. But the journey ahead is far from easy. Africa still faces daunting challenges: political instability, violent insurgencies, and economic disparities that threaten progress. The alliance between spiritual faith and revolutionary courage offers a new blueprint, one that combines moral strength with practical leadership. It reminds us that Africa's future is not a story of dependency, but one of empowerment. Every African voice rising today carries the weight of history and the promise of tomorrow. This rising chorus is demanding global recognition, not as victims, but as equals, as architects of their own fate. The message from Pope Leo XIV and Captain Traoré is a call for the world to stand with Africa's renaissance, to amplify its voices, and to embrace the unstoppable force of a continent on the rise. It is an invitation to witness, support, and celebrate a new dawn, where Africa's dreams are no longer deferred but realized. When news of Pope Leo XIV's response to Captain Ibrahim Traoré's open letter broke, it sent shockwaves not just through political circles, but into the hearts of people around the globe. This unprecedented dialogue sparked a wave of reactions, ranging from hope and admiration to fierce debate, revealing just how deeply this moment resonates across cultures, continents, and communities. It showed the power of leadership that transcends traditional boundaries, stirring emotions and challenging assumptions about what faith, courage, and responsibility truly mean in today's world. From the bustling streets of Ouagadougou to the corridors of power in Rome and beyond, voices rose to affirm that this exchange was more than diplomacy. It was a clarion call for justice, compassion, and bold action. In Africa, the response was electric. Citizens, activists, and scholars hailed the Pope's recognition of Traoré's leadership as a historic breakthrough. Finally, a global spiritual leader acknowledges our struggle and stands with us, said Amina Diarra, a human rights advocate from Mali. This gives us hope that our fight for dignity will not be ignored. Social media platforms exploded with messages of solidarity, pride, and renewed determination. For many Africans, this was not just a political statement, it was a deeply personal affirmation that their voices matter, their sacrifices are seen, and their future is worth fighting for. The Pope's words fueled a collective spirit of resilience, encouraging ordinary people to believe that change is within reach when courage meets conviction. Globally, reactions were equally powerful, though more nuanced. Some leaders welcomed the Pope's message as a courageous step toward bridging divides between faith and politics. Scholars like Dr. James Okoro, a professor of international relations, pointed out that this exchange challenges the global community to rethink traditional power dynamics and embrace partnerships rooted in justice and equality. Yet critics also emerged, those wary of mixing religion with revolutionary politics, fearing potential instability or misinterpretation. Despite dissent, the overwhelming tone was one of recognition that this dialogue demands serious attention. It forced a worldwide reflection on how institutions, both religious and political, can evolve to meet the urgent needs of our time. What stands out most is how this moment united diverse voices under a shared cause. Whether a devout Catholic in Europe or a young activist in Africa, people felt called to witness a historic turning point, one where faith was not a distant ideal, but a vibrant force for liberation. This global chorus of real voices proves that the conversation sparked by Pope Leo XIV and Captain Traoré is alive, dynamic, and far from over. It is a reminder that true change is a collective effort, fueled by the passion and determination of individuals who refuse to accept the world as it is. Their voices invite us all to join the movement, to listen, to reflect, and to act with courage in our own lives and communities. As we close this chapter on the historic exchange between Pope Leo XIV and Captain Ibrahim Traoré, one thing is clear: true leadership is born at the intersection of faith and fearless action. Their dialogue challenges each of us to look beyond comfort, to stand boldly with those fighting for justice, and to believe that change, real, lasting change, is possible when courage meets conviction. This moment is more than news. It is a call to awaken our own power to make a difference in a world hungry for hope. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, share it, reflect on it, and let it inspire you to rise. Because history doesn't wait, and neither should we. Until next time, stay bold, stay informed, and keep pushing for the change the world needs.